Okay, guys, so after you watch this Man City versus Man United preview video with myself and David Ornstein, please make sure you watch the Federico Macheda interview with myself, Rio, and Steve. It is a banger. Great insight.
This guy was mad finisher, like clinical finisher, score all type of goals, tap-ins, bang it from inside, anywhere in the box, dangerous around the box. And you knew he could finish. And the manager, you'd hear the manager say, and you saw the manager's quotes at times, this guy's the best finisher at the club.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to this week's episode of The Five Insider. First of all, you wrote your column before the international break, which was really interesting. Looking at the whole Man United team, Harry Maguire, he's not going to be playing this week in the derby, injured, of course. But just to take it back to your column, you said Southgate has kept faith in the former Leicester City defender and commented on his recent lack of action of club level during a pre-match press conference on Thursday, saying, clearly, it's not an ideal situation. You want your best players playing regularly, so they're physically in a good place and mentally in a good place. So why is it that even though he hasn't been playing, he picked him? I mean, now he's injured. I'm not really sure about the injury. I think there's a little bit behind it. And, you know, it's clear that he's going to the World Cup, but it's a mess for him at the moment because I think he's actually psychologically worse off than he was before going to England.
Yeah, well, I've got no reason to dispute the injury. He limped through the mix zone, wasn't it, after the Germany match. And as I understand it, I think he's set for a couple of weeks out, but nothing too serious. And really, in his position with what's going on at England right now, he would want to be playing for Man United or be available for selection, whether it be in domestic or European competition. Obviously, the cup competitions haven't got going yet. So I don't think he would purposefully want to be out. And that's not in Harry Maguire's nature either. He fronts up. We've seen that for England just recently. I think he would acknowledge that his form's not been where he would want it to be by any means because, you know, those opening two matches for Man United were disastrous. Eric Ten Hag changed his team. Harry Maguire's not got back in and United have been doing well. Gareth Southgate has shown the faith in him. And I think it's important to make clear that Harry Maguire has never really put a foot wrong for England when it's mattered most. And so we're looking at the Germany match and there were a couple of mistakes there. Players do make mistakes and it's come at the worst possible time for him because it's almost like he's on trial with the public in front of the eyes of everybody. The World Cup's looming, but he's a trusted lieutenant. Whether we like it or not, whether we have different opinions, Harry Maguire is going to be going to that World Cup. He's very likely to start in central defence. You've got to ask yourself whether there are better options at left centre-back than Harry Maguire right now, who fit into Gareth Southgate's style and thinking and way of playing. So you're going to say to me, Fikayo Tomori.
Yes.
And everybody's saying Fikayo Tomori, but also those who watch AC Milan and when you speak to people around Serie A, they've pointed out that he's made some mistakes, but it's maybe not as noticeable to some of our audiences and that, I don't know, he's amazing at recoveries, for example, but he's not amazing in the air. And Harry Maguire, in theory, is very good in the air. He also, if he's on form, has shown at major tournaments that he can be resolute defensively and also an attacking threat as well. So I'm not here
but David, he's not on form. That's what I'm saying to you. That's my issue. If he was playing and he was playing all right, I probably wouldn't have a problem with him going to England. And I say that from an England's fan perspective.
Yeah.
The people watching, a lot of them are going to be Man United fans. They've got a problem in general because he's not even playing well for their club. So I sit here and I wonder, especially because Gareth Southgate had said that he picks players based on form, how him and Luke Shaw have managed to get in the team. You know, fair enough to Luke Shaw. He played well, you know, during Germany. He got his goal. I think I think he was one of the bright sparks. This is not about England. This is about Maguire, and obviously we're focusing on the Man City derby. But for me, I look at his future and I go, if you're not playing for England, right? Well, if he's playing for England, if you're not playing for United, even though you're going to the World Cup, what's going to happen with him at United? Is he still going to be here at the end of the season? Is he going to be looking to make, you know, a move to another club? Because surely this can't be good for his confidence and his market value as well.
No, that's a good point. And I think we've got to look at the context here, and it's why it's important to mention the international scene, because that will affect his confidence, his market value, his chances maybe of getting back into the Man United setup. Because if he does go and start at the World Cup, and if he plays well, for example, eliminate those 2 mistakes, easier said than done. But I think the consensus was that other than that, he played all right. You say he hasn't been in form, but he hasn't been playing for Man United to know he is in or out of form other than...
I saw him in the last 10 minutes when he came in against Arsenal. He looked like he was going to concede a penalty every time he's got... And it's not a bash Maguire session, you know. Honestly, frankly, for me, it's not that much of a big deal. But I struggle to understand where a man goes from here, right, after he's having such a difficult time. I don't think I've seen a player have such a difficult time, if I'm honest.
So that brings you to the United point. He's under contract until, I think, 2025 with the option of an extra year. So it's not like this is going to come to a head by force of contract, like, I don't know, the likes of Rashford and Shaw and Dalot and De Gea. They're 2023 with the option of a year. So we're a few months out from United needing to...
Rashford is a year away.
Yeah, 2023 with the option which gives United control over it until 2024, whereas Maguire, I think, is 2025 with the option until 2026. So Man United will need to look at this. There were suggestions in various quarters that if a decent offer came in for him last summer, would Erik ten Hag and Manchester United's hierarchy be willing to sanction his departure? People had mentioned maybe a move back to Leicester City, who needed to strengthen at centre-back, and that's where he played arguably his best football. But Erik ten Hag came in very early on and made it clear, maybe in his first press conference, that Harry Maguire was going to remain as captain and Harry Maguire was going to be a part of his plans. You've seen Bruno Fernandes speak in an interview with The Athletic, and he said that Harry Maguire's our captain and we've got full respect for him. I think Brandon Williams has also hit out at the way he's been treated in public and by trolls on social media. And
Which is true.
Clearly, Harry Maguire is resilient mentally, and he will back himself. He has to take whatever opportunities come to him at Man United, bank on the likely rotation that Erik ten Hag will oversee when it comes to the European and domestic competitions, and somehow with the World Cup maybe as well play himself back into form and be a credible option for Manchester United going forward. Because when you look at the likes of Manchester City, Liverpool, Tottenham, Arsenal, should be the case at Man United, Chelsea, when players are fit, they've got a number of high quality options in central defence. Many of them at those clubs aren't fit, and so opportunities have come to other players. And Manchester United, when somebody inevitably goes down with injury, is Harry Maguire going to take his chance? It's not for me to bet against him, but it is a problem. So I'm not trying to get away from that. It's a major problem for Manchester United. He's an £80 million signing. He's a very prominent player for club and country, high salary, just like it's a headache for Gareth Southgate, who must be praying that he will get some game time and play himself into form before the World Cup.
Ahead of Varane and Martinez.
No, but you don't know. Varane's injury record suggests that he's not going to be playing every match. He hasn't since he joined Manchester United in terms of consecutive appearances. Martinez, does have a very good fitness record, and he plays on the left side where Maguire has traditionally played. But the issue for Gareth Southgate is huge. It's probably bigger than the issue for Erik ten Hag. And I don't have the solutions, the answers, but I do think there is a bit more context to this than Harry Maguire's done. Bring in a different player for the World Cup. Let's be realistic about this.
It's not going to happen. He's proved it already, by picking him, he's going, But it actually makes me wonder, so you spoke about certain contracts coming to an end. I mean, if you compare the signings that Man City have made, I think that's a great example of a very well-run club. I mean, we can all agree with that, right? So if you're looking at the players that they bought in, Haaland, looks like they wrapped up that deal a long time ago. Obviously, they had him at a good price, 51 mil. Calvin Phillips did the business early at 45 mil. Akanji, I thought that was a very, very good buy at 15 mil. Sergio Gomez and from Anderlecht, 11 mil, and Stefan Ortega on a free. Now, when you look at United, who they bought in, Anthony, Casemiro, Martinez, Malacia, Eriksson, and Martin Dubravka. Now, I reckon they've done really well in the market, especially when you look at the likes of Eriksson, Martinez, like really good buys, you know. Anthony seems to be positive stuff.
Yeah.
And yes, you know, it looks like they're taking a good turn now, but I think the years of which Pep's had the chance to really put his fingerprints and, you know, into the club has shown, you know, and I think because of that, that's where City win the game on Sunday. I know someone's going to say, what, you reckon because you can have a one-off game, what about Liverpool? But no, it's true. If you look at the way they go about their business with the big clubs, they get the job done. You know, I know there was a struggle against Crystal Palace and, you know, some of the smaller teams, you know, they've gone behind, etc. But with Erling Haaland at the front, I think we're going to see a repeat of what we saw last season when Man City beat them on both occasions.
Yeah, that double that City did over United has not been a common occurrence in recent years. So that shows that there's unpredictability to this Manchester derby, especially at the Etihad, where United have pulled a few results out of the bag, memorably when City were trying to win the title that day and United turned it around. I'm going to nick some of your research because you sent me a spending table earlier today. And, you know, in the years prior to Ferguson retiring and even after, it was largely City spending, United not. And then the tables turned on a couple of occasions, and City came back. Sorry, United came back and City dipped. But then the trend is that actually City's spending has receded in terms of number and United's have come up. And I think the biggest differential comes in the summer just gone, where, you can praise United for their signings. I think they did well in terms of the players they recruited. But so did City. And look at the disparity there. United's spend absolutely dwarfed City's and even more so when you look at net spend. And
206 million, by the way, if you want the stats when it comes to net spend, and 18.4
for City.
Yeah, City. I mean, when you're looking at their total net spend since 2009, 2008, 2009, this one's for the Man United fans out here, 1.2708 billion by Man City and 1.215 billion Manchester United.
So what you got to pick up on here in these recent years is that Man City are a very settled club. Exactly. They're a very settled recruitment structure. They've backed Pep Guardiola. They've had a clear vision. They're settled and they are in their delivery phase, which is winning trophies, competing for the biggest honours. Manchester United are not at that stage of their journey, of this genesis that they will hope to be on in the years ahead. By comparison, Manchester City's structure, their personnel, their vision has been on a different planet to Manchester United's. United have chopped and changed where they're going, who's leading them there in terms of the manager in the dugout, the players on the pitch, the executives behind the scenes, and many more appointments that have come and gone. Whereas City, by and large, have been consistent. And that consistency, that stability has paid off in results. To the point now where you're asking me about this match, well, despite United's upturn in form, despite their capacity to shock City, despite the weapons that they have at their disposal, City are a stronger force than Man United, and you would expect them to win. Even in the Crystal Palace game you referenced, where they face adversity, they fight back and they show their strength and they win quite convincingly. And that has been only embellished by having Haaland there, who is the cherry on the cake. It was the missing piece in the jigsaw. And even when times are tough, they now know that they have him to get them out of trouble, which they didn't have before. Even without him, they're probably coming into a game like this as favourites. But one thing with United that we need to bear in mind is in the results that have been positive for them recently, take the Arsenal one that you mentioned, they were largely outplayed. I was there at Old Trafford and Arsenal really should have won or at least drawn that match. They had the better of it. And so we're not really seeing that with City. They didn't get outplayed by Crystal Palace over the course of the match. No. They're getting the results that they deserve, but they've had 2 draws this season, Manchester City. They're not top of the league, and I think United will go there thinking they can cause a bit of a surprise, however unlikely it may be.
I just want to look at the previous results in regards to the Manchester derby. The most recent one, 4-1 to Man City. That was an absolute battering. And I'm not just saying it, it really was. They showed their class. And even at Old Trafford, even though they won 2-0, I was at that game and it felt like it was 4 or 5.
Yeah.
They didn't even use their substitutes that game. Couldn't believe it. Previous result to that, on the 7th of March 2021, Man City lost 2-0 to Man United at the Etihad. And prior to that, on the 6th of January 2021, Man City beat him 2-0. And on the 12th of December 2020, it was a draw. So like you said, it's gone either way. Obviously most recently City showing absolute dominance, but I have to admit there's much more stability at Manchester United now.
Yeah.
So
they've got a plan as well.
Yeah.
And I think that's really clear for the first time in a while in terms of, with no disrespect to the previous managers, Ralph Rangnick was a builder who came in mid-season to deliver results. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was in by far and away his most high-profile and pressurised job in his managerial career. The chopping and changing before that from Mourinho, Van Gaal, Moyes, post-Ferguson. City's consistency is there for all to see. But not only do they have a plan under Erik ten Hag, but they have the players capable of delivering it. And when you see Christian Eriksen as a midfield general, a bit of a conductor who can set the tempo, pick a pass, link attack and defence, capable of scoring goals and set pieces. When you look at the early stages of return to form of Marcus Rashford, that's when you start to recognise the job a manager can do in igniting players. Jadon Sancho's had a decent start to the season. Bruno Fernandes.
That's another one, that Southgate. I'm not sure what's going on over there.
That was an eyebrow-raising selection decision.
Because you're gonna lose creativity just by doing it. He's obviously Grealish is good, but he comes on as an impact sub, coming in from the left. I would probably play Jadon Sancho there. Without
meaning to throw it back entirely to England, I think what the public have been confused by, and it's one of the key points you mentioned, is you reminded us of this quote that Southgate used about form. He has also spoken in recent days about relying on England's best and most trusted players. So that conflicts itself, and maybe some of his comments that he said in the past compared to the present have led to a lot of frustration among the fans. And so when you see players who are out of form and confusion, see players who are out of form getting opportunities, well, in Gareth Southgate's mind, it may be form for his team. At major tournaments, there could be caveats.
It's true.
So it's like they didn't play well in the June matches, but he may say, well, when we come to major tournaments, I'm referring to the Euros, where Harry Maguire, to refer back to him, was injured in the build-up, yet was named in the team of the tournament as England made it to the final and everybody was singing his song. The Nations League before, they did okay, obviously went far into the finals tournament, and at the World Cup in 2018, Harry Maguire was something of a hero. And so he may be, in his mind, referring to that when he talks about form, not in isolation, but in part.
It has to be, because it can't be what he said.
Well, and
unless
therefore,
he's lying to us.
You look at players like Jadon Sancho or James Maddison, a Fikayo Tomori. You could argue they've not had the opportunities. He may use as a reference point that others have done it in the England shirt. And maybe, I would argue that Jadon Sancho came in for that game against Ukraine in the Euros. England got their biggest scoreline. It was their only match away from Wembley, and he was integral to that. He didn't get the same opportunities again. But I think one thing the Euros taught us, and this is why we need a bit of balance and caution in this, is that Gareth Southgate knows better than most of us, and he proved a lot of us wrong in getting England to the final. When there was an outcry when Trippier started at left back in the first game, it seemed to work. And so we're all the experts in the build-up, and I'm not saying he's right on all of these decisions. I'm not saying that Bukayo Saka playing as a left wing-back worked, but it is worth reserving judgment based on the unpredictability of a tournament and what can happen. on your point about Jadon Sancho, it's definitely a surprise when England were struggling for goals and creativity, and he's doing that in the Premier League, and he has been in the England setup before. And that's why I think the door is still open to a Sancho, a Rashford too. And if Sancho hits his straps in these weeks ahead,
6 weeks,
you've got to imagine that he stands a brilliant chance of going to the Euros.
I wish I could believe you.
To the World Cup.
I wish I could believe you. And I think what you're saying is right in theory. But I think what we've seen in the last month has proved us, the complete opposite. I want to move it on to Pep Guardiola.
Yeah.
We've spoken about how good Man City is. We've spoken about Man United's bias. But when it comes to this man, I mean, are we looking at the best manager in the world, despite not winning the Champions League, yes or no?
Well,
with Man City, that is.
It's just not a yes or no answer, so I'm going to let you down. He's one of the best in the world, no doubt. It's like a Messi-Ronaldo debate, this. Depends on your preference. Is it Klopp or Guardiola or...
Ancelotti?
Yeah, there's some big managers with claims to stake for that mantle. My feeling when you look at the greats in my lifetime, it's the likes of your Ferguson, your Wengers, your Ancelottis, your Mourinhos. More recently, Benitez has got a good record in my generation. Also now Klopp, Guardiola, etc. He's got to be one of the best the game has seen based on the style of play, the results, the trophies. People pick him up on the Champions League. And so maybe that's where he needs to break through again and win it with City to really mark himself out yet again. Not that he really needs to, but there will be some people who even then aren't happy because they'll say, he's only won it with the biggest teams. There'll always be people who find a fault with certain managers based on their preference. But for what Pep Guardiola has done, Barcelona, Bayern Munich, Manchester City, the way he has kind of redefined the style of play in this era, the amount of coaches who try and imitate him, the sort of Guardiola disciples now. We're seeing De Zerbi at Brighton and Hove Albion. We're seeing Thomas Tuchel, who is a great fan and friend of Erik ten Hag as well, who was at Bayern B when Guardiola was the manager there. I think we're not going to see many better managers than Pep Guardiola. I don't think coaches, but we'll see many different ones. And he's not perfect. He has faults, and he definitely hasn't done as well as he probably should have done
in Europe,
in the Champions League.
Okay,
and cool. There are selection decisions like not playing a holding midfielder in the final against Chelsea in Porto that will continue to see him questioned. By the way, I didn't mention Conte as being one of the best coaches of this generation as well. But you'd be hard pushed to say there are coaches who are better than Pep Guardiola.
Yeah, no, I agree. And to be honest with you, I'm going to let you guys decide, and I know this is not going to be a very popular one before we go, but if he does stay a little bit longer and he wins a couple more Premier Leagues, especially in the era that we're in, could he go down as a better manager than Sir Alex Ferguson? Yes or no?
I don't think he'll go down as a better manager than Sir Alex Ferguson.
If he wins a Champions League or two and the Premier League, no? Do you reckon that's cemented for Sir Alex and that's it?
Yeah, it's definitely cemented. He was and will always be a legendary figure in domestic, European and world football for what he did from a difficult and precarious position when his job was under threat right at the start to building title-winning teams with homegrown players blended with star names. Yeah, there was finance behind it at Manchester United as well. He didn't just win with one team. He regenerated. He won with multiple teams. He won at times against the odds, like in '99 when they won the treble, when it could have all gone wrong if it wasn't for the Giggs goal in the semi-final of the FA Cup against your team at Villa Park. He rejuvenated his backroom staff as well. He, of course, had success prior to Manchester United at Aberdeen, which was on meagre resources by comparison to what he and others like Pep Guardiola have had in their careers. We've got to watch this space on Guardiola. He's out of contract in 2023. There were reports a while ago that there was an agreement in principle, but to my knowledge, nothing has been signed. And of course, City would love him to stay, but that contract presumably remains on the table unsigned. And so the time is ticking. Maybe this international break will be used by a number of clubs to sit down with their managers, the likes of Tottenham and Antonio Conte, who's also out of contract in 2023. Are they going to go on? And City will be keen to get an answer, because if, God forbid for Man City fans, if Pep Guardiola decides that this is to be it, because he's already gone on longer at City than he has managed elsewhere, then there will need to have a succession plan in place. It's how do you replace the irreplaceable? Those are the biggest of shoes to fill. But City, with their structure and setup, will be confident of doing so. However, their priority will be that he signs a new contract, goes on to achieve more success. But better than Sir Alex Ferguson? My view, no.
Thank you very much. Guys, this has been the 5 Insider. It's funny because I'm actually looking at the stats as you're speaking, trying to keep up, trying to make sure that what you say is
I've got
correct.
so much wrong, I'm sure.
No, you really correct. And we could have gone on for a long time, but obviously we have to make sure that, we get the timings right and stuff like that for your sake and stuff. But honestly, the information that you come up with and the stats and the conversation we have is truly out of this world. And we're really, really happy to have you on. And please make sure you like, share, comment and subscribe. Let us know what questions we should ask Mr. David Ornstein for next week's episode. Joel Bayer, David Ornstein, signing out on the 5 Insider. Peace. What are the key pieces of advice that you would give upcoming footballers and even current ones?
For me, the biggest advice I would give is to never doubt themselves. Because once you start to doubt yourself, you are gone. Your mind is dead.